It is a phrase in football circles that makes people's skin crawl. The phrase, when you have two quarterbacks, you have none. Is BYU football living that reality? Let's talk about it.
You are Locked On Cougars, your daily podcast on the BYU Cougars. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, everybody? I'm Jake Hatch, your host here on Locked On Cougars, your resident BYU insider. Thank you for making Locked On Cougars your first view and or listen of the day, and thank you to all of you who are everydayers with us right here on your original daily podcast focused on the BYU Cougars. Today's show is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. Right now, all through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to take advantage of that offer and get started today. All right, let's dive right in on today's show. As I said, there is a phrase out there that when you have two quarterbacks, you have none. The situation at hand for BYU is now that we are under 2 weeks away from the season opener for BYU football. They will be closing up training camp today, as I think it will go down. There's media availability this afternoon. I'm assuming Kalani Sitake will get up in front of the media and say it and declare it formally. Training camp is closed, and then they will begin preparations in earnest for their season opener against Southern Illinois tomorrow, and then carry that on through next week as they get ready for that opener on August 31st. The situation at hand is that I am not expecting BYU to announce a quarterback decision today in media availability. Could I be looking wrong in just a few hours' time based on when you watch this? Yeah, I could be, but everything I'm hearing through training camp and coming out of last week's scrimmage on Saturday out at Lavelle Edwards Stadium is that this is still very much a two-horse race at quarterback for BYU. Aaron Roderick, BYU's offensive coordinator, has said he wants one of these guys to make it readily apparent that they are the guy for the BYU football program. A week ago, trust me, people I was talking to saying, Jake, it's Gerry, it's Gerry, it's Gerry, it's Gerry. Well, this week, I've got people telling me, hey, Jake won the day in that last scrimmage, and he might be the guy at this point. I feel like this is going to be a race that truly goes down to the wire. Aaron Roderick told us that he had a decision to make between Zach Wilson and Jaren Hall way back, that would have been in 2019, that he went up to 3 days before BYU kicked off that season. Might this be the same situation for BYU? Yes, but I also at the same time, do I think that either one of these quarterbacks are A, Zach Wilson, or B, Jaren Hall? No, I don't. That's nothing against Gerry Bohanon and or Jake Retzlaff. Those are two bona fide NFL quarterbacks. You have to look very far to see what Zach and Jaren have done in the NFL ranks. Now, Zach had a pretty awful safety on Sunday night, but we'll leave that alone. They are both bona fide NFL quarterbacks. Do I think that Jake Retzlaff and Gerry Bohanon are going to be at the same level as those guys at some point in their career? A man can hope, but right now I wouldn't bet on it. I just feel like right now with the BYU quarterback situation is that you very well may be looking at a two quarterback system, at least for the early part of this season. Could it be a 3-game tryout for both of these guys where you split time in the non-conference slate against Southern Illinois, against SMU and Wyoming, with the hopes that one of them establishes themselves in a game and then asserts themselves once again as the guy going into your Big 12 opener against Kansas State? That may be the best case scenario right now for BYU. I feel like at this juncture, that's what BYU's coaches and or anybody else involved with the program should be preparing for. Now, before I get ripped by some of you saying, well, you don't speak for the coaches, Jake. No, I don't. That's why I talk on this podcast. I am not a coach. I am what they call a second guesser. I'm not a first guesser. If I was a first guesser, I'd be sitting in that chair that Aaron Roderick occupies. I don't sit in that chair. I observe and I give my opinion on such matters. And as things stand right now, I don't see a good situation developing for BYU if you believe that adage of if you have two quarterbacks, you have none. Because right now, so Monday, August 19th, I'm anticipating seeing both Jake Retzlaff and Gerry Bohanon play in the early part of this season for BYU. Could that change in a week's time here? Could it change once we switch over to game week mode for BYU and you start to ultimately hone in on who you want to put on the field against Southern Illinois and the rest of the season? Maybe so. And maybe it will be simply the fact that Kalani Sitake, Aaron Roderick, Fessy Sitake, and TJ Woods, any of those people who have coordinator titles on the offensive side of the football that will have a say in this, maybe they sit in a room and say, okay, Let's write down a list of pros and cons for these guys. And whoever has the most pros versus the least cons ends up being the guy. And they essentially just force the decision that way. That could be how it goes. And they ultimately say, you know what, we've got to establish a guy. And whether it's Jake or whether it's Gerry, you go with it and see what happens. I think this could, as I mentioned a little bit earlier on, go into the season. The non-conference slated games, in theory, you could play those two, let's say against SIU. You give them an opportunity to play a quarter each or a half of a ball game and see how they perform. And then the next week against SMU, you kind of follow a similar format with the hopes that you still win the game. And then that Wyoming game, based on the previous two, ends up being, okay, we got to pick a guy here. You pick a guy, he's the guy against Wyoming, and you hope that they perform well enough that gives you some confidence as you head in to that game against Kansas State on September 21st. Is it an ideal situation? No, quite frankly, it's not. It's actually the worst situation imaginable if you really want to look at it that way, because you would have liked to had one of these guys really kind of the cream rises to the top. They end up saying, this is my job. I'm asserting myself. Maybe it's simply the fact that these guys, they are hearing so much from the outside and also inside the program about, hey, you got to win this job. You got to improve yourself. Maybe it's simply they're psyching themselves out because the decision-making has been questionable based on what I have observed and what I have heard from BYU coaches. The highlight reel that BYU put out from this past scrimmage featured 4 interceptions on it, 2 of them to Ethan Slade, 1 to Mark Collins, and 1 an incredible one-handed effort by Isaiah Glasker at linebacker. And based on what I was told, is that all 4 of those interceptions either came from Gerry Bohanon or Jake Retzlaff. There's not McKay Hillstead. It's not Trayson Bourget. It's the 2 guys, the 2 horses that are competing to be the guy for BYU with questionable decisions and throwing picks in a scrimmage situation that you would hope they would avoid. Maybe that's BYU's defense actually balling out. Maybe the defense is going to be the chief strength of BYU's this year. Maybe that's the case. Maybe it's going to be a team that's going to rely on its defense holding down opposing teams and the offense doing just enough to win games. I wouldn't bet on that because I think the defensive metrics a season ago indicate that BYU still got a long ways to go to being a quote-unquote dominant defense under Jay Hill. Can they get there at some point? I believe they can, but you need some quarterback play that's going to elevate this program. And right now, less than 2 weeks out, I don't have much confidence in BYU's quarterback situation. I don't mean to come off as a negative Nancy on this, but you would have hoped by now, we're almost a month into training camp, that one of these 2 guys would have just essentially said, no, that's my job, seized the reins and said, I'm the guy. Neither one's been able to do that based on everything I'm hearing / what I have seen. And it very well could spill into the season. And that is not the situation I think anybody involved with BYU envisioned going into training camp happening. But at the same time, that may be the differentiator, is finally getting them, quote unquote, under the lights and see how they perform. Who rises to the moment in game action, live game action. There are guys who have that moniker of being gamers. Might one of these guys be that? We'll see. But right now, it's anybody's guess from my vantage point as to who is going to suit up first for BYU when they kick it off in less than 2 weeks' time. All right, flipping over to the defense, though, coming up next, we're going to talk with a guy that I think has been highly underrated going into the season. I think he'll be a key cog in any and all hopes of BYU having a better defensive outing this year under Jay Hill. Who is he? Well, his name's Tanner Wall. And you're probably saying, okay, Jake, who is Tanner Wall? Well, he'll introduce himself to you coming up next, right here on Locked On Cougars. Today's show is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. Now, FanDuel is here for you guys no matter what you're into when it comes to sports. You probably heard us talk a lot about FanDuel. We've been doing it literally for months now. They are America's #1 sports book. We have something different for you, though, in terms of the offer they're offering up. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a three-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Think about that. Bet $5, you get to watch your favorite team in the NFL for free for 3 weeks. It's an incredible offer. Then with the YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out-of-market game. All you need is a Google account and a current form of payment. Then you can cancel at any time. I'll tell you this much. I am a YouTube TV disciple. I have had it quite literally for years. It is my preferred way to consume my television. I would encourage you guys to give it a shot. If you're looking for a new TV option, YouTube TV is the way to go. I'm not being paid to advertise for YouTube TV. We're talking about FanDuel. This might be a great way for you guys to find out if YouTube TV and FanDuel is the right option for you guys. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and download America's #1 sports book right now in app form. And also, once again, check it out. Bet $5, get a 3-week free trial of our friends over at the NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Once again, that's FanDuel.com/LockedOn. Thank you once again for making Locked On Cougars your first listen of the day. Appreciate all of you for being everydayers with us here on the podcast. Coming up this week on the show, I guess one of the shows, I would encourage you to just check out our new editions of our college football preview series. Now, it's going to be going live tomorrow, so 5 o'clock Mountain Time, 7 o'clock Eastern Time. All the Locked On 24/7 streaming YouTube channel will have a 4-part series, which is live, covering all the major Power 4 leagues. That includes the Big 12, which I am a part of the discussion, talking about the BYU Cougars. You also can check out the ACC, the Big 10, Big 12, and also the SEC. It's all on one night. Be sure to check out this special streaming live on Locked On College Football's 24/7 YouTube channel, or also on the Amazon Fire TV free TV channels app. It's all part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Of course, your team every day. All right, let's talk about BYU defense. And let's let you hear from a guy that I think is going to be your starting free safety this fall. You heard me right. Tanner Wall is going to be BYU starting free safety. I know there's a lot of guys out there in that safety room that you're probably thinking, well, what about Raider DeMooney? What about Crew Wagley? What about Ethan Slade? What about Talon Elfrey? Folks, Tanner Wall has been balling out all training camp long. And he always, trust me, you can read any of the previews. He gets just kind of cast aside as, okay, that's cute, but he's going to be your starting free safety against Southern Illinois. And if he stays healthy, he'll probably be the starting free safety all season long based on everything that he's done in training camp so far. Every time I'm out there at practice watching, he makes a play or two that make you kind of turn your head. And people I have talked to inside the program think that he is absolutely just an underrated key cog in what BYU hopes to do on defense this year. Well, who is Tanner Wall? What does he hope to accomplish in a BYU uniform as BYU's, in theory, starting free safety this fall? And ultimately, what is a free safety versus a strong safety in the BYU defense? Well, he explains all that and a whole lot more right now, right here on Locked On Cougars.
A lot of people call these the quote-unquote dog days of training camp.
Right.
How do you get through all this?
I think for us, the biggest thing is just focusing on loving the game and loving our teammates.
Mm-hmm.
I think our level of brotherhood and camaraderie is still elevating every single day. And I think, it's a huge focus for us this week. And as we approach, the game, is just being united as a brotherhood, loving each other, keeping each other healthy in the way we practice, right? That's a huge thing. Sometimes when guys get, tired or their bodies are banged up, they start to play with bad technique, or they start to not pay attention to all the details, and that's when guys get hurt. So we're still focusing on all the little things and keeping everyone healthy and safe and playing with a lot of love. So.
How about practicing as a team? What all does that, how does that come about? Is that just a culture thing? Like, how does that come about in practice?
Absolutely. I think it starts a lot with just our communication and playing with a lot of football IQ. Obviously on the back end amongst the DBs, we know that the more we talk, the more we communicate out there, the better we play. And as we tie in the backers and the front into that too, we're able to just really play much more as a unit. And so that communication for us is key, and that really comes from just watching a lot of film, football IQ, understanding what we're seeing and how to react.
Now, this is a safety unit that's really deep, just with all the experience you guys got last year because of the injuries.
Absolutely.
We've heard Jay call it a battle royale for playing time.
Yeah.
What's your assessment of how things are going so far on that back end?
Yeah, I think, there's a lot of guys in our room who want to play, right? We got a lot of guys, and just being in such close proximity to Jay, he expects greatness and excellence from us, and that makes us that much better as well. And so really all of us are fighting for that spot, right? We all want to play and help this team win. But at the end of the day, it's going to come down to the guys who make plays, the guys who do the little things right. Coach Hill focuses a ton on, one thing we talk about a lot in practice is building good habits of bursting to the ball. Whether you're the farthest guy from it or you're the closest guy, you got to burst to the ball, right? And so he's told us a number of times, the guys who end up on the field are the ones who do that right all the time. They have that constant habit of always running to the ball, bursting, and playing with that juice and energy. So.
Now, if I may be so bold, you may be one of the lesser known guys in that unit because you're a walk-on with this program. He's kind of worked his way up the pecking order. You started as a wide receiver here, if I'm not mistaken.
Right.
What does it mean to you to now be in the rotation, challenging for a starting job?
It's exciting. I coming off an injury last season, right when I felt that I had gotten to, a place where I was feeling really comfortable with the game. It was slowing down for me. That was tough, but, obviously coming back off that injury, spent a lot of time this winter with my teammates, watching tons of film, just learning, mastering technique, and so the game has slowed down even more for me. So it means a lot to be one of those guys who, can compete for that job. And that's what I love about Jay is he tells us every day, like, nothing's ever just given, right? Like you have to consistently prove yourself and earn that spot. So I love that about how we battle in that room, and everyone has to show up every day.
It's all on merit, right? It's all about
Absolutely.
how you play on the field.
Yeah.
Now, in terms of playing alongside guys like Crew Wakely, or kind of playing that free safety spot, as well as Tommy Prassis with you, I want your assessment of those guys playing the same spot as you.
I think Tommy, as a young guy, has shown really well for a guy who graduated high school early. He came out, he learned the defense really fast, made some good plays in spring ball, right? And is a guy who has high football IQ and really cares about the game and does all the little things right. Crew's actually playing more of the strong safety,
Okay.
but he's looked really good. He's had a great camp. He had a great practice today. Had another pick today. So Crew's a playmaker. He's always around the ball, and so I would expect him to be a guy who we see on the field a lot this year as well.
Okay, I'm going to have you explain to my listeners the difference between the free safety and the strong safety in this defense, because a lot of people hear safety, they think the same thing.
Right.
They're very different in this defense.
Yeah.
Though.
Yeah. So in our defense, we play a lot of one high. Mm-hmm. So free safety is more the guy playing in the post. Doesn't have a ton of man coverage responsibilities. Right. We're kind of free flow, weaving off the quarterback, and strong safety plays closer to the line of scrimmage typically. Has more coverage responsibilities on tight ends, and will be in the box in packages, but that's kind of the distinction.
Okay, but as a free safety in this defense, being one high, you're the last line of defense quite literally in certain
Absolutely.
circumstances.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah, there's some tackles you got to make as a free safety where it doesn't matter how pretty it is, you just got to get them down and play the next down. So,
what are you looking forward to most about this upcoming season?
I'm just looking forward to putting this finished product on the field with my brothers. This brotherhood is evolved a lot this offseason. We had a pretty unique offseason just in how we handled things with our strength staff. And I think our culture has really evolved in a way that will help us perform very well. And so I'm just really excited to be in front of 65,000 people in Lavelle and, just play with that level of love for each other and for our fans and for our families, and go win a lot of football games, which I'm confident that we will do.
I was going to also ask you, in terms of expectations, obviously they're pretty low in terms of the preseason polls. Do you guys pay attention to any of that?
No, we don't really care. Obviously, for some guys, it can be motivating to know that, everyone looks down on us, doesn't expect much of us, but, I'd rather be an underdog in every game than get complacent and think that we're going to come in and just roll anyone. So we'll play hungry and stay humble throughout every game we get to play this season, whether it's 13, 14, 15 games.
Now, I know that you play on the opposite side of the football, but what's it been like to watch a quarterback battle unfold from your vantage point?
I think it's cool to see, Gerry and Jake, they both have different personalities and kind of almost different playing styles too, but just the level of competition between them, I think, is helping both of them elevate their game. Each day it might be like, okay, a guy pulls ahead, and then the next day a guy will make up ground. So I think it's kind of an iron sharpens iron kind of situation where they're battling for that spot, and it's making both of them better. So I look forward to seeing who it is.
A big thank you to Tanner Wall for joining us here on the podcast. I'm telling you, get to know that name. I got a soft spot for Tanner. Funny enough, some of you may know my background in sports media. I worked for Scout/247 Sports way back kind of in the early days of me covering the BYU beat, working with Total Blue Sports at the time. And Tanner was a guy that we actually brought on as like a student correspondent when he was a high schooler out in the Virginia area. And I've known about him for a long time. It's absolutely incredible to see him where he's at today. And I'm telling you, get to know the name Tanner Wall and get to know the number 28, because as he mentions, he plays that last line of defense. That's truly what that free safety role is in this defense. There are times guys are going to get beat. They're going to get burned. And it happens. But as he mentions, you got to go just get the guy down. Doesn't matter how pretty it is. You got to go get that guy and tackle him and live to play another down, as they say in football. But big thank you to Tanner for taking the time to join us here on the podcast. Always enjoy talking with him. And I'm telling you, get ready. He's going to be your free safety, at least for the early part of the season. I would expect it continues all season long, barring him getting injured. I really think he has got a breakout season inside of him coming up. All right, we will talk a little bit more about BYU recruits. I had a chance on last Friday to be out at the first games of Utah high school football. Really fun opportunity to go watch the Weber Warriors take on the Westlake Thunder. I live a stone's throw away from Westlake High School here in Saratoga Springs, Utah. Well, that game featured 2 BYU commits. One, Sale Fano, a defensive end and tight end for the Westlake Thunder. The other, Tyler Payne, who plays linebacker and H-back for the Weber Warriors. I had a chance to catch up with both of them after those games to talk about their performances in said games, but more importantly, talk about how things are going with BYU on the recruiting front. You'll hear those conversations as we wrap up this edition of Locked On Cougars next. Today's show is brought to you by our friends over at eBay Motors. Now, eBay Motors is here for you guys to make sure your car is taken care of because, as they say, passion, drive, and patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for with eBay Guaranteed Fit. Your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time, or you get your money back. It's simple as that, my friends, because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash, with all the parts that you need at the prices you want. More importantly, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home those huge wins. So keep your ride or die alive today at ebaymotors.com. Once again, that's ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. And also, get eBay Guaranteed Fit is only available to U.S. customers. Thank you once again for making Locked On Cougars your first listen of the day. Appreciate all of you for being everydayers with us here on the podcast. If you have not done so already, what are you waiting for? Sign up for our Locked On Cougars Insider Group. It's a great way to get inside intel. I was sending out updates of what I was hearing from BYU scrimmages, all that type of stuff. You want the inside scoop on what I'm hearing coming to your phone quite literally in the form of a text message. It's much more instantaneous than that to get you those updates. Join us. The link is in the show notes below. It says join the Locked On Cougars Insider Group. There's a hyperlink there. Click it, enter your phone number, 14-day free trial, $5 a month after that to see if it's the right option for you, and hope that many and more of you will join the Locked On Cougars Insider Group today. All right. Before we go on today's show, I was at a Utah high school football over the weekend. I always love watching high school football. It was a very important thing to me when I was a high schooler at Mountain View High School in Orem, Utah. But more importantly, it's a way for me to give back to the community because high school football, it's still, I know that it's got its warts, and trust me, the transfer situation that we are seeing, kind of the epidemic in college football, well, it exists at the high school football level as well. But the thing about it is, there's a lot of kids playing high school football who are living out a dream. All they wanted to do is play football. And they know, I think in their heart of hearts, I knew in my heart of hearts, I was never going to play past the high school level, but I wanted to live that dream. I wanted to be out there on Friday nights. I wanted to be a part of what it is to play on a football team. And I lived my dream in high school, and I had a great time doing it. What I get to do now is to go out and watch these fellow young men, the fellow type of young men that I've watched over the years develop in some cases, as you'll hear in just a moment, into Division I prospects. There's a lot of guys that they're playing with in these games that they know are beneath them, and they're not going to be playing the same level of football as some of the guys they're playing next to and across from. But the thing about it is a proving ground. It's an opportunity to go out and be amongst your peers and to build relationships you'll quite literally have for a lifetime. I can tell you, I've got relationships with high school teammates of mine that I'm 20 years removed from my senior year. 2024 is 20 years removed from my senior year of high school football. So it's incredible to think it's been that long, but I'm still just as close to many of those guys I played high school football with as we were when we were coming together as 17 and 18-year-olds at Mountain View High School. Well, the fun part was Friday night, I got a chance to catch up with 2 BYU commits. They played on opposite sides of the football from one another in a game I was at. I was at Westlake High School watching the Westlake Thunder open their season against the Weber Warriors, and it was a really, really fun game. Get to know one name, by the way. It's the third Payne son of Matt Payne's. That would be Carter Payne. Now, Carter Payne is a 14-year-old freshman, and he passed for 333 yards and 3 touchdowns in his first ever high school start on the road, over an hour away from home in hostile territory. Talk about a baller performance for Carter Payne. I did not get a chance to catch up with him after the game, but I did talk with his older brother, Tyler, and Tyler talked about Carter's performance, but more importantly, we also talked about how Tyler did, because he's no slouch in his own right. Tyler, folks, get ready. I could see him playing that Ben Bywater role for BYU's defense for years to come when he shows up at BYU. He's got all the skills. He had, I think, 16 tackles against Westlake, and I would venture to say he was close to 10 in the first half. Absolutely incredible performance for him. But the Payne family has got a really, really strong legacy at Weber High School. So here you go. Here's my conversation with Tyler Payne after the Weber Warriors defeated the Westlake Thunder 24-16.
Tyler, first off, congratulations on the win. How's it feel to be 1-0?
Oh, it feels great. Put in a lot of work in the offseason, and now it's paying off, so it feels great.
Now, I didn't know this going into this game. Your younger brother's the starting quarterback for the team?
Yes, sir. Little freshman. He's a baller, yeah. He did great today. Three TDs, so he balled out.
Yeah, so obviously the Payne family got a lot of legacy here at Weber. How cool is that to be playing with your younger brother?
Oh, man, it's awesome. It's a dream come true. We've been dreaming about it since Little League, so it's a blessing for sure.
Now, you're playing linebacker, obviously, committed to BYU. How is everything going just in terms of your relationship with the Cougars right now?
Oh, man, it's been great. Went to the junior day at Splash Summit a couple weeks ago, and it's great. They've been treating me great, so just feeling good about the commitment.
What have you worked the most on in terms of your game?
Definitely been working on pass rushing. Talked to Coach Enna a little bit about it. On my team, I come off the edge a little bit more. Might stay a little more Mike at BYU, but definitely pass rushing for sure. So.
Well, we saw that tonight. You were getting into the hole there and just really kind of shucking and jiving. Is that part of the design of this defense for you to go out there and just jam up the line?
Oh yeah, for sure. We have all our personnels, but it's just set up to set us up for to win.
What's the relationship with Coach Enna and the other coaches down at BYU right now?
Oh man, it's great. I'm excited to watch them. You know, I've been knowing Coach Hill for a while, but that official visit was really awesome with them. Got to build a lot of good relationships with the whole entire staff. They're just awesome dudes.
What are you looking for most as you move forward here in the season then?
Just getting my legs under me, not cramping for one. Just balling out with my brothers and go 2-0 next week for sure.
How big of a role have you taken in terms of just recruiting guys to BYU alongside yourself?
Oh,
It was big. Played against Sale tonight. He's a baller. Too bad we didn't get Nusi, but it's all good. But it's a blessing for sure to get guys here and make this 2025 class special.
How often are you talking to guys like that?
Me and Blake probably talk every week. So
okay.
I got him. He was an early commitment, but I'm feeling pretty good about the class. There's a couple guys, the Pay kid I've been talking to a little bit. Definitely talked to him on the OV. So we'll see where he ends up, but he's a special player for sure.
Okay, so I understand your older brother's going to walk on at BYU.
Yeah, that's right.
You're going to be a BYU Cougar. Your younger brother going to be a Cougar too?
I don't know. We'll see if he keeps balling out. He might end up there. We'll see. So, yeah, for sure.
There you go, Tyler Payne, and a big thing in him for taking the time. Now, on the losing side of that was Sale Fano. Now, Sale had a sack in this game by my count. He may have had a second. I know he had a couple of QB hurries as well. He was getting pressure alongside Nusi Taumoepeau for Westlake on Carter Payne, but Payne still had his performance, really, really nice performance. As I mentioned, over 300 yards and 3 touchdowns. Probably should have a 4th touchdown had his wide receiver not tripped on a route that had him open, but really, really good stuff, and still a lot to take away for Westlake that they can, I think, build upon this season. But I had a chance to catch up with Sale Fano after this game went final, talk about the loss, but more importantly, talk about his relationship with guys like Kelly Poppinga, Jay Hill, and more importantly, Kalani Sitake, as he is as you'll hear, very excited to be a BYU Cougar down the line.
Tough loss at game 1, but how are you feeling after the performance tonight?
You know, we worked really hard for this, all right? Win or loss, it doesn't determine how hard we work for this, all right? We were working all summer, early mornings, late nights, so there's no there's no way where I'm going to go home being like I didn't put my all. And I know that all my teammates did, you know. There's ends and flows of a football game, so, you know, that just happened to we just happened to take the beating on that part, but yeah.
We saw you playing both ways tonight. You're obviously being recruited mainly as a defensive end with BYU, but what's it like to play both tight end and defensive end?
Playing both tight end and D ends really nice, and it makes me It helps me contribute to like both sides of the ball. You know, last year I didn't really get to play offense, and our offense was struggling last year. So playing defense and offense really made me feel like I could really give it my all.
Obviously, you committed to BYU not that long ago. What led you to decide the Cougars were where you wanted to play?
I love the coaches. Coach Pop, I love that man. Coach Jay Hill, love Jay Hill, and Coach Kalani. Those are my guys. They were actually one of the first people to offer me besides Hawaii, and man, it really touched my heart with that. You know, they believed in me, and then everyone else started coming, but BYU was really the first one. I love the culture there. Love how it's a Christ-centered church, and man, I just love BYU.
Talking with Tyler, who's one of the other commits on the other side of the ball tonight, have you guys talked much in the recruiting process?
Yeah, I've seen him on some visits down at BYU. You know, we've kept in touch ever since like last year. I was at a game and like we met each other, and we both weren't offered, but like we met each other and like, you know, we were talking about life, and it's nice. I like Tyler.
You're working with Coach Pop mainly down there. Obviously, he's the defensive ends coach.
Yes,
What's
sir.
the relationship with him like?
Coach Pop, you know, he texts me every day. I really appreciate that. He doesn't know how much I love that. But Coach Pop, I love Coach Pop. He knows what he's doing, man. He coached Kyler Van Noy, coached Fred Warner. Like he coached some big dogs, and I'm so excited to be part of that.
Is that the dream, to be a kind of an impact defensive player like that down the road?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I just want to make a name for myself down at BYU, and if I can like make an impact there, that'll be the best.
What's the relationship with like Coach Hill and Coach Kalani like?
Coach Hill, man, you know, there's Coach Pop, and then right under it is Coach Hill and Coach Kalani, you know. Like, they say they love me as a person, and I love them as a person as well. You know, they say recruit a coach, and I was recruiting them, and they had Christ, like, centered in their hearts. They were tough. They were mean. I love Coach Kalani and Coach Hill.
Now, moving forward with this season, obviously 0-1 to start, but what are your goals the rest of the year?
My goals, I just want to help my team out. These are my brothers. I love them these are my brothers. I want the best for them, you know, whether they want like offers or like they just want to get a win. Like, I want what they want. All right, that's my goal for this year.
There you go, Sale Fano from the Westlake Thunder high school football program. Before that, Tyler Payne. Awesome to do this. And the games I'm out at this fall, if I have a chance to catch up with a BYU target / commit, I am going to take every opportunity to talk with them, and you guys will be the beneficiaries because you guys will hear those conversations right here on the podcast that you will not get anywhere else. I can assure you, few people were at that game that are in the same capacity I was as a media member getting those interviews. So that's the kind of exclusive stuff I'm planning on bringing to you guys this fall. So a big thank you to both of them for taking the time, and looking forward to seeing them suiting up as BYU Cougars. I think both of them are planning on going on missions. So you'll see them probably more down the line in 2027, 2028, but still cool to catch up with them and hear a lot about what they love about BYU, what they love about the coaches recruiting them, and just what BYU means to them overall. All right, that will do it. A big thank you to all of you for your support of the podcast. As always a pleasure to sit down and knock these out, despite the circumstances. I had a power outage at my house that kind of is screwed with getting this podcast out there. So as soon as I am able to get it up, it will be up. So if it's delayed a little bit, understand that. But nonetheless, a big thank you to all of you, as always, for your support of the podcast. Cannot thank you guys enough for being everydayers with us here on the podcast, and more importantly, making it your first view and or listen of the day. And until tomorrow, my friends, have a great rest of your day. And this has been the Locked On Cougars podcast.